Well, they say timing is the most crucial skill in life at times. I don't know. Some people say that. I certainly had some pretty bad timing going on a rant about how the Raptors were playoff bound and how the Cleveland Cavaliers might, I don't know, be a little afraid. And then the Toronto Raptors, I said, there's no way. There's no way you can lose to the Washington Wizards, man. There's no way. You can't lose to the Wizards. How are you going to lose to the Wizards? They're the Wizards. That might sound like really stupid reasoning right now because the Raptors do exactly that. And you think to yourself when what they pulled on the road against the Orlando Magic, right? Where they pulled their starters and they went with G leaguers and rookies to close the game. You're like, yeah, I get it. You're doing it on the road against the Magic, but there's no way in hell you have the balls to do that at home. You're not going to do that at home. You're not going to do that in front of your home crowd when you're charging them money to attend these games. You wouldn't do that. Oh my God. And they did it. They did it. They did it. This is the craziest game I think I've ever watched in my life. I mean, there's so much to break down in this game from, Scottie's hot start, scoring 14 points in the first quarter and then just going cold the rest of the way, from RJ Barrett just barreling to the basket over and over, to some very mixed results and some very bad defense throughout the game on Jordan Poole, to what I believe to be a very, very good game from Colin Castleton. I haven't really talked about Colin Castleton when the Raptors signed him to a 10-day and make a video about it, but color me very impressed with his overall game, to Orlando Robinson being the clutch scorer down the stretch, to Jamal Shedd's comedy of 3 errors down the stretch, and the game winner that did not count because of one millisecond where the ball was just on the tip of his fingers. To those of you petitioning for the tank, oh, the Raptors need to tank. Well, I hope you're happy. You have a loss against the Wizards. This is the type of loss, honestly, that sinks your season. Like there's certain losses and certain wins that just count for more than one. Just like we say with points, there's some points that just count for more than 2 points. They're big momentum building points. There's certain wins that can turn around your season. I got to tell you, losing down the stretch when you pulled Scotty and RJ and Yak from the game to the Wizards, when this is the type of thing you don't come back from. I'm sort of surprised the Raptors had the balls to do this. I'm really surprised, honestly. I am. Because a lot of us had the question after the Orlando game, what happens if it swings the other way, right? From a human element, how do you go into your locker room? It's one thing. It was all, vibes and everyone was super happy. And, Jacoby got his game winner. And, you feel happy for him. And you're like, okay, cool. We gave the young guys some experience here. And sure, you gave some young guys experience right now, but you lost to the Wizards at home. And this is a winnable game. And I don't know how you go into your locker room and say, guys, practice tomorrow. Let's bring the hard hats. Let's offensive rebound. Let's, put our bodies on the line. I don't know how you go and face the locker room like this, right? I really don't. To those of you who just see lottery balls, like your entire life is lottery balls, you wake up, you dream of lottery balls, you go to sleep, you dream of lottery balls, your pillowcase is probably lottery balls. To those of you, of that mind, you're probably very happy, and hopefully the rest of us who kind of find a loss like this to be really embarrassing. And I'm being honest, like this is embarrassing. This is not just embarrassing for the Raptors. This is embarrassing for the league. This is embarrassing for the fans. This is embarrassing for MLSE, and this is just embarrassing. Now, obviously, sure, I don't think anyone's going to care if you do luck out in the draft lottery, and months from now, this will probably be a distant memory. But this happened. This happened in the NBA, where you had a team at home who was already resting 80% of their core rotation, pull their only 3 starters of consequence, and roll out a G League lineup to close out a game against one of the worst teams in the NBA and lose at home. I don't know how you can feel happy about this. I'm sorry, I don't. Am I being emotional as a Raptor fan? Am I feeling a little emotional? Maybe I I need to adjust my perspective on just how far this team is willing to go to pull out all the stops, you know. But when you come at me next year, when I'm saying, hey, the Raptors could be a 45 to 47 win team, don't bring up the record from this year because honestly, at this point, I'm looking at the record this year and it's just garbage. It doesn't mean anything. How many games like this have the Raptors lost? Okay, we've got more film for today's game than we usually do, honestly. I was thinking I might actually. Do you remember? Do you remember in the video I said this video might serve to be the ultimate jinx if they go unloose to the Wizards? Well, okay. I mean, I may not be the hero the Tank World Order asked for, but certainly I'm the one y'all deserve. Okay, let's take a look at this one, man. Because yo, I was just not impressed with RJ Barrett's game, man. I think the rebounding was good. The playmaking in spurts was very decent, but I just did not love his shot selection. 7 for 17, the negative 15 is not lying to you. The Raptors seem to do better with him on the bench. Jameson Battle puts together back-to-back really good games. You know, just another one. Shots hitting, 3 for 5 from 3, really good. Colin Castleton, as I mentioned, a team best +9, and you felt it. Like you felt it. You know, he was in his stance. He was guarding wings. He offered some, you know, weak side shot blocking. I think he was just really good. I think he was really good. He's 24 years old, you know, 3-time all SEC player, 6'11". He can guard, he can switch a little bit. You know, I'm curious to see where this goes with Colin Castleton. I'm curious to see if he'll stick around with the Raptors. Maybe he'll be on the summer league team. This could be a cool little, you know, third string center, power forward type of guy that you've gotten. And if you look at teams like Memphis, if you look at teams like OKC, it is finds like this that really, you know, like the Isaiah Joes, the, you know, those guys that really, you know, fill out your roster on a really, really cheap contract. So you don't really have a lot of bigs, you know, apart from Ulrich. There aren't a lot of 7-footers or 6'11", 6'10" guys on this team. And so obviously that's something you'll probably look to address in the 2025 draft, provided you pick high enough to pick someone of consequence. But you know, if Colin Castleton just works out for you as a third string big, I think you've hit something here. Orlando Robinson just got out muscled all game, and the 7 points that you're seeing on there, I believe he scored all 7 in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. I think he scored 7 points straight. So, you know, big close for him, but for most of the night, he was just getting badly outplayed by Rashawn Holmes. Like just body. Rashawn Holmes did to the Raptors exactly what Walker Kessler did to the Raptors. He had 7 offensive rebounds. Bilal Coulibaly had 8 offensive rebounds. Like the Raptors could not guard the defensive glass at all tonight. Jamal Shed, you know, starting in place of the resting Emmanuel Quickley. I think he had a pretty competent game. He had some really crucial errors down the stretch. We'll take a look at that. AJ Lawson and RJ Barrett. Yo, Mississauga saved the tank tonight. I got to be real honest. Those two specifically saved the tank tonight. A combined 30 points, yes, in 60 minutes, but the efficiency was abysmal. 9 for 28 from the field. RJ really was saved by the fact that he just hit his threes tonight. Like that was a good sign to see for a guy who's, you know, sputtered a little bit. But the mid-range stuff, the basket, you know, around the basket, a lot of wild heaves at the rim, a lot of really questionable decision making as well. I just did not like it. A lot of turnovers for RJ, 5 turnovers tonight. Just didn't love the game from him. Jakob Poeltl, Mr. Steady, you know, 24 points, 21 minutes. He was definitely the best big in this game. I thought he was great, just finding his spots. Scotty Barnes, you know, really just what the fuck kind of game, you know, like starts out brilliant, right? 14 points, gets to the line at will. You know, 39 points in the first quarter, 24 from RJ and Scotty combined. And, you know, the efficiency just went to shit after that. He scored 4 points the rest of the way in the combined 3 quarters after the first. Like, that's really crazy. I was curious to see if 14 points was a career high in the first quarter for Scotty Barnes. It was not. He has scored 17 points in the first quarter, 15 points in the first quarter before, but 14 was definitely a season high, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, big start for Scotty, but just, you know, really tapered off. I think the defense continued to be amazing. There was a sequence down the stretch where the Raptors were down 8, 9, 10 points in the fourth quarter. And, you know, he just spurred this incredible comeback for them, you know, play after play, found, you know, okay, so Marcus Smart really, you know, bothered Scotty, forced a really awkward turnover in, you know, live dribble situation. And then there was that turnaround where he had an air ball with Marcus Smart. But right after that play, he gets downhill, finds Jakob Poeltl. Then the others on the other end, he gets a steal, pushes it down the court, finds Jakob Poeltl again, and it's like swing, 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 24 seconds. Just a great, winning play or winning set of plays. And then, of course, Scotty gets pulled, RJ gets pulled, Jakob gets pulled, and 3 minutes down the stretch, we got the Jared Roden, Jamal Shed show, and the Raptors continued to fight, and they clawed back. They were down 6 when they made that, and they made a game of this. And then, of course, down the stretch, yeah, we're gonna take a look at that in the film breakdown. Let's just take a look real quick at the team stats. The Raptors did get outplayed. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like they did not play well enough to win this game. Like they were helped a little bit by some hot shooting, 38% from 3. That's not something you can bank on without Immanuel Quickley and Gradey Dick and Ochai and those guys who typically hit your threes. This is not like a normal outcome, but I think it's just because the Wizards are so bad. But the Raptors played into the hands of the Wizards for the most part. Like the Wizards are one of the faster paced teams in the league, and they really played into their hands. But tonight, the Raptors 24 assists. When has this ever been a recipe for success? Scotty Barnes did not get on the glass, and I've often said that's the barometer for me. If Scotty's engaged in the game, he's rebounding. He's getting 10 rebounds, 12 rebounds, and that makes a huge difference because he can always push off those rebounds. And the Raptors give up like they got 56 points in the paint to the Wizards, right? That's not a recipe for success. They got 24 assists. That's not a recipe for success. They get out rebounded by 1. That's not a recipe for success, especially because you were playing double big lineups with Castleton and, like you were big. You were pretty big tonight. You had Castleton, plus you had Orlando Robinson, plus you had Jakob Poeltl. Usually you had 2 of those guys on the court at the same time, and then you also had Scottie, who's really big, who's playing a lot of backup point guard tonight. So, you should control the glass for the most part. They didn't. And yeah, I mean, the Raptors, kudos where kudos are due. They made their free throws tonight, 90% from 3 free throw line. That's not a given. With RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes, the free throws can sometimes be 60%, sometimes it could be 80%. Tonight, they made their free throws. Scotty's been really good from the free throw line post All-Star break. But overall, I mean, you were losing by 13 to the Wizards in the second half. That is really bad. In the first quarter, the Raptors end up winning by 6. In the second quarter, they give that lead away. They go into halftime trailing by 2. And it was at halftime, ironically, for the first time in the game, that the odds actually swung into the Wizards' favors. Now, the Raptors came in to this game, I believe, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 point favorites to win this game. But it was right at halftime, right there going into halftime, that the Wizards achieved a 54.4%, according to ESPN, win, like, let's call it a win probability. And they did not look back. They edged as high as 85%. And right there, the Raptors, 29 seconds to go, it was still 65%. So at no point were the Raptors, according to ESPN, favored to win in the second half. And yet, they were 0.1 seconds away from winning this game. So let's take a look at the film breakdown. Give me 1 second here and pull this up. I know there's a super chat. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna pull it up, but hang on. Noble Venom. If they split Poeltl and alternate between sitting IQ, RJ, Scotty, they can lose these games. Poeltl helps them win too much. Well, he didn't help tonight. Well, he did help tonight, but they got him on a minutes restriction, and they're not closing the games with him. If you play Jakob Poeltl, like, I'll say 30 minutes tonight, you win this game. If you play Scotty 30 minutes tonight, you win this game. Like, you had to try so hard to lose this game. I guess right now I'm looking at the implications of, like, what is this going to do to your locker room, to your chemistry? Okay. So here I say something pretty controversial. I said, if these are your 4th and 5th best players, you're pretty good, and this is one of 2 almost back-to-back plays that RJ Barrett made of similar fashion. Some people find it offensive that I call RJ Barrett the 4th best player on this team. I don't think that's offensive. And honestly, if you think that's offensive, then, if you think that's hating on RJ, cool. Well, then if you're going to consider RJ a better player than Immanuel Quickley, then I guess I got a question for you. Are you an Immanuel Quickley hater? If you think he's better than Scotty, are you a Scotty hater? If you think he's better than Brandon Ingram, are you a Brandon Ingram hater? And if you think he's better than, I asked the question, if these are in fact your fourth and fifth best players. That's based on consensus. That's based on how the world thinks about these players. Now, you could say he's the third best player. I don't care if you think he's the best player. Power to you. Point is, the Raptors' number 4 and number 5 best players are actually pretty good relative to league average. Like, if you stacked up the fourth and fifth best player on every single team, I would say the Raptors' fourth and fifth best players are on par with most players in the league. Now, the teams that I feel would give the Raptors a run are all contenders pretty much. It would be teams like Cleveland, Boston, OKC. Like, those are the teams, right? This is Ingram's team. Agreed. This is not Ingram's team. Okay, I'm not gonna engage with the stupidity in this chat. Okay. All right. Now, I think this is really bad basketball. Now, I want to show this play. Okay. Now here. So, unfortunately, I clipped it. If you see the freeze frame here, this is RJ Barrett throwing a pass to Jared Rhoden. Okay. Now, the right pass to throw here is to Scotty Barnes. It's the clearest pass. Scotty would then be able to find Rhoden. But unfortunately, you make this pass to Rhoden, who's not as gifted a playmaker, and he delays this just a little bit. I don't think the spacing is great. I think Scotty probably should have been lower here. And this is going to allow Keyshawn George to come back and actually block this Scotty Barnes shot. Once again, Rob knows all. What's with the attitude? You want to call in and talk? We can talk. Like, I don't appreciate the rolling eyes and bullshit. Honestly, I don't. Like, you got some energy about you. Like, that's cool. Why don't you call in? Let's talk it out. Like, there's no need to be passive aggressive in the chat. It's perfectly fine. You can call in. We can have a conversation like grown men. But keep this type of energy out of my face. Wants to smoke. This is the internet, bro. This ain't real life. Like, I'm getting like real annoyed with people not understanding basketball. Like, that's my perspective on it. Being a good player, being a best player or one of the best players involves two ways. Okay. I'm not gonna video review on what? Yeah, I don't care about the announcers. I heard the fucking idiot announcer today, who I will not name, call RJ Barrett a really great two-way player because he's finally trying a little bit on defense. And 2 plays later, I watched him get cooked by Jordan Poole over and over. Like, y'all really, like, I'm not even trying to be rude about this, but like, y'all really need to fucking like stop trusting. Don't trust me. Watch with your eyes. I'm watching Scotty Barnes be one of the top 10 defenders in the NBA over the last 2 months. Easily. Versatile as hell. Now, I have held no punches back about how god-awful some of his offense has been. Like, but you cannot just understate that element of the game when you brush it aside and just say, okay, this is Brandon Ingram's team. This is RJ Barrett's team. Like, y'all really don't get it. Brandon Ingram was given away for Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk. Do not turn this into a Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett slander pod as I try to express to you the 5,000 things that are missing from these guys' games. You want to anoint someone because they're a bucket getter. You want to anoint them on the pedestal of franchise player, not realizing that when these guys are franchise players, you will lose to teams like Washington. You need Scotty Barnes very much. And if you can't appreciate it, it's because you don't understand basketball. Straight up, honestly, that's the truth. Okay? You see one side of basketball, that's what your mind hones in on, and that's what you want to see. That's it. That's all you see. Jeez. But please do indulge that this play that frankly, like, I mean, shit, it's not necessary. What about this? And this is just terrible. Like, you don't need to consistently, the Raptors sometimes fall into this trap of overdriving. But this part of RJ's game was just done. Like, we were not talking about RJ Barrett pull up mid-range shots anymore. And I was actually very relieved that he had taken this out of his game. But shit, look at this set of plays to end the second quarter. And this is exactly when the Raptors fell apart. Consistently overdriving, right? Bilal Coulibaly is a fantastic defender. You are double teamed here. Scotty's wide open. Yes, he's shooting like terrible from three, but this is not a good shot for you. You do not have a size advantage, a burst advantage, and you are going into the help. Alex Sarr is right there. You have not created the appropriate space. And oh, by the way, you got 14 seconds on the clock. There's no need to force this. And it's not going to be a 2-for-1 situation. So you're just not aware of the clock. And look at this, completely ridiculous. Like, it's really bad. And the very next play, down the other end, you gamble on defense. You get caught flat-footed. You lose your balance. And it's a wide open three. You contest late, but it's a wide open three. So it's like, we all know what they're doing. Cool. If 3-point shooting was everything in basketball, what if I make the same argument? What if I say the free throw shooting is everything in basketball? Can I make a case that RJ Barrett's terrible? Can I make a case that Shaquille O'Neal doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame? You know, if Scotty Barnes was hitting threes, you wouldn't be in tanking situation, because honestly, if he hits 35% of his threes this year, you're probably a 35 win team right now. It is a really, really big thing that Scotty is not hitting his threes right now. But I do think that we can look back at you know, like I was having a conversation with someone, I want to say last week or a week and a half ago on Twitter Spaces, and this person was particularly annoying. Honestly, what? Who are you talking to? Issues with facts. See, this is the problem with facts and people like you, because you manipulate facts in order to present one side of the facts. Because if I present facts, right, you might call it a bias, right? What if I use free throw shooting percentage as a means of gauging whether or not someone is a good basketball player? What if I use defense? Just call in. Honestly, fuck off. Call in. I'm like, it's actually, I don't know if I'm just irritable today, but there's a couple of, like, I want to say, longtime channel member contributors that are really getting on my nerves right now. You might be one of them, but Thierry Fontaine, every single time I look on social media, negative, 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 negative. It's like, bro, like, what the fuck? Like, we are in a tanking situation. On the one hand, you miserable ass fucking people want to complain when you win a basketball game. When Scotty plays well, you say, we need to shut Scotty down. But then you have a game like this where he goes cold in the second half and you're like, see, he's a bum. Like, just call in. You're too emotional, bro. Call in. I don't like chat warriors. You know what I mean? If you're gonna sit here and derail the entire chat, that's all I'm asking. Why don't you call in? There's more to basketball than what you think there is to basketball. So if you want to call in and make a case for why you think Scotty's a bum, just call in. And if you don't want to make that case, bro, I am trying. Watching this game is so frustrating right now. It's so frustrating because honestly, I am pulling for ethical. I'm pulling for wins. I'm pulling for wins. Noble Venom. I don't think these are trolls. I think a troll is somebody who is doing it on purpose to gauge some sort of reaction from you. I don't think these are trolls. I think these are fans. I think these are Raptor fans. Jeez. Okay. I shall continue on. Honestly, just a terrible, terrible way to end the half. I'm a big believer that how you end halves, how you start quarters, how you end quarters is a really, really huge, huge thing. So, okay. Now, please. Okay. Here, Scotty beats Marcus Smart. Notice, former defensive player of the year, Marcus Smart, still a very, very good defender. Marcus Smart did get the primary assignment on Scotty Barnes, and I think he did a great job on him. Honestly, I think sometimes when you're a bigger player who doesn't have the tightest handle, a smaller player getting into your comfort zone, getting into your space can really throw you off your rhythm. And I think Marcus Smart did a fantastic job on Scottie. Here, Scottie, just a perfect bounce pass to Jakob, converts that. Then on the other end, this pass is cut off pretty much by Scotty Barnes on Keyshawn George. He gathers it, quickly pushes it up the court, and here sucks in two defenders and finds a Jakob wide open. See, it's plays like this, and honestly, I'm fully aware that Scotty had a live ball turnover very shortly after this, and the previous, the play prior to this sequence was him airballing a jump shot over, Marcus Smart. But sometimes you just have to appreciate the small things that Scotty does, you know, like here, right here. This one step and that whip pass to Jakob right when the defense had committed the second defender, Rashawn Holmes. Like, I feel like a lesser playmaker would have made that pass earlier, right? And it's these small things, and you try to explain it to the simpletons and, these brain dead fans, they don't get it. They don't get it. An assist is just an assist. It doesn't matter how open the person is on the assist. It doesn't matter what advantage you generate. And sometimes that's really the frustrating thing about basketball coverage is not everybody's basketball acumen is the same. I'm not even trying to be that rude about it, but I am trying to be rude about it. It's the truth. If you're going to talk about basketball with such conviction, so as to say this player is ass or this player is not, it might help to actually understand a few things about what those players are actually doing on the basketball court on both ends, frankly. Now, I don't care what the scheme is. This is absolute ass defense. Here, Jakob, Jared Roden, AJ Lawson. Like, my God, you cannot. Once Jameson Battle has tagged the roller, Jakob has to recover onto the shooter. And this dude, he's not a sniper by any means, but he can hit an open shot. He's an NBA player with a jump shot. He can hit it. And this, you're hanging right on the bounce. 96, 97. You're right in this game. Fourth quarter. You've made these positive plays in a row to get back into this game. And this one is just, it hurts. This three just kind of hurts because it's such a self-inflicted thing. Now, I did say that I'm becoming a bit of a fan of Colin Castleton, and this is one of those plays that really stuck out to me as, great recovery here. I'm not really sure about his wingspan. Doesn't strike me as an overlong guy, but probably about a 7-foot wingspan. This just showed really good shot blocking instincts, man. That was not an easy shot to block at all. Am I rooting for wins? Honestly, I'm not rooting for wins or losses. I'm just rooting for good process. This is not good process. Pulling your starters at home is not good process. I don't know, what this says to the fan base about what you're actually doing. I think to me, it shows me that they're willing to do really anything, but then it kind of just makes you think, like, why didn't you do this sooner? Like, why are you even playing Scotty to begin with, only to rest him in the fourth quarter? What is the point of any of this? I mean, I'd love to ask a fan who was actually there tonight. Would you rather that Scotty Barnes had played at all? Would you rather the RJ Barrett even dress? Or would you rather the Raptors just send out this G League lineup and just, go full flag? Right? I mean, I don't care. Okay, honestly, a loss by 30, a loss by 40, a loss by 20. I'm more concerned about, like, how are you playing? Like, is it a loss by 40 where everyone is just selfishly hunting their own shot and it's just being a total asshole and completely abandoning the team principles? Or is it a loss by 4 and you just missed a couple shots? Like, I think that's kind of where we're at, Like, okay. Okay. Now, comedy of errors, number 1 for Jamal Shed. Okay, 33.5 seconds to go. Shed gets the ball, a screen here by Orlando Robinson, and he gets it. He gets it to go. So this is amazing. Now, this is the first good thing. I apologize. The bad is coming here, though. Wait, where's the turnover? Hang on. Nah, this was the turnover. I missed it. My bad. So this is the turnover. So 1 minute and 34 seconds to go. Jamal Shed. They really went with Shed down the stretch. I guess they want to give him some reps here. And he just dribbles it off his foot. That's a really tough break. But the aforementioned play where he hits the layup, he kind of makes up for it on that one. Big time, right? Kind of manipulates, gets Alex Sarr to reach. That's a rookie on a rookie on a rookie. That's a rookie on two rookies. And I guess Castleton has just enough gravity that Middleton wasn't willing to completely abandon the corner shooter, but probably should have in that case. I'm not trusting Castleton to make that shot. Now here, this is a mistake that's not called. And honestly, I'm not really sure how I feel about this. The rules are pretty firm that you can't really move your feet like too much. And Jamal Shed does not have a lot of size. Chris Middleton's a pretty long dude. I think he's about a 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" wingspan. So he was able to disrupt his angle of passing just enough. And here he moves his feet and, his foot is like right there. And you can tell like Jamal Shed is looking at the referee. Like, is he going to call this? Like, I'm almost in bounds here. And by the way, this is with the game on the line. That's with the game on the line. So then the Wizards force an awkward, shot from Chris Middleton, a 3, which gives the Raptors exactly 2.5 seconds to win this game. They can't get the ball in bounds in the first one, so they take another shot at it. And here we see Jamal Shed gets the ball from AJ Lawson, beats Marcus Smart off the dribble, which is very impressive, and then puts this shot over the extended arm of a shot blocker in Alex Sarr. Now, when I saw this, I thought it was good. I really did. I thought, wow, I can't believe the Raptors did it again. You see the reaction. Look at this picture. That's RJ Barrett sprinting, Scotty Barnes sprinting. You see how happy Ochai Agbaji is in street clothes. This looks like a team that just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay, this does not look like a team that just beat the Washington Wizards. That's a testament to how connected and how together this team really is. Now, I took the liberty of making this very slow just in case there's somebody in the chat who's going to say this was a conspiracy, so we can freeze it to the exact moment that the clock hits 0. Okay? There you go. So let us settle that. The clock hits 0 and the ball is still on the fingertips. Now, I'll play this a little bit just to show you how close it was. It's exactly, I would say, 0.2 of a second too late. 0.2 of a second too late. But hey, he made the shot. It didn't count. Fine. Showed me that he has a little bit of clutch, that, he has that burst as an undersized guard to be able to get this over 2 defenders, one of whom is a really big time shot blocker, leading the Wizards in terms of shot blocking. Gets past his man. It was Marcus Smart, very good defender, very good guard defender, very good point of attack defender. So I think this was a really good growing game for for Jamal Shed. And, kudos to the Raptors for sort of featuring him down the stretch. I think, this is a game that you could build on. But again, I'm kind of just at a point where I'm like, where do you go from here? How do you face your locker room? How do you explain to them that, hey, this is what we've done? We're not. You think we can catch the Pelicans? I think that's a really worthwhile question to think about. The Brooklyn Nets ended up losing tonight to the Charlotte Hornets, which is like another tankathon battle. So let's just take a look at the tankathon. So the worst team in the league just won their second straight game, which means Utah is the team that we just won against is there. Charlotte and Utah are now tied for second because Charlotte won tonight and Utah is just full on tank mode. Utah might actually catch Washington. If Washington does not watch it, this could get ugly. And now the Toronto Raptors, who just lost tonight, are very lucky to have lost tonight in a sense as well, because had they not lost, the Brooklyn Nets would have overtaken them for fifth. Now, I got news for you. The Brooklyn Nets are going to overtake the Raptors for fifth, no matter what the Raptors do. The Raptors can go out and lose 4 or 5 straight. The Nets are going to lose 4 or 5 more straight. And now the Raptors have a 3-way tie between themselves, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Philadelphia 76ers for 21 wins. 21 wins. And they are separated by 2 losses. So the Raptors are basically about to be 7th because the teams behind them are just losing. And this is all futile. It's all futile. The only thing that the Raptors are doing right now is trying to position themselves to be slightly better than Chicago. And they're very lucky because Chicago has won 2 straight. So that gap is widening a little bit. And so the gap between Chicago and Toronto is now 5 games. Okay, cool. I still have a feeling that we're going to catch Chicago and end up in the playoffs. But if you do catch Chicago, look at the record. It's the 8th seed. So San Antonio can continue to free fall and it'll probably be 9th seed. I keep saying it. I think it's going to be 9th. Right? If we ended up making the play-in, would you feel indifferent? What does that mean? Would I feel indifferent? Indifferent about what? Indifferent about the play-in? No, I wouldn't feel indifferent. I'm a Raptor fan. I would feel excited if they were in the play-in. Wouldn't you? Doesn't that make sense? I mean, for old time's sake, let's just do it. 3, 1, leave it there. Cool. Okay. So, I mean, this is where we're at. We'll either be 11th or 10th in the Eastern Conference. Did you see the Pick a Side podcast about how they would rather build around RJ than Scotty LMAO? So dumb. That's cool, man. They're RJ Barrett guys. The Pick a Side podcast are RJ Barrett guys. They're all RJ Barrett guys. They're in the tri-state area. I believe they're New Jersey or New York based. So yes. Riv, all those guys, like they prefer RJ. That's perfectly cool, man. Look, I watched basketball long enough in my life to know that there are certain things that people are just gonna like on a basketball, team. Like there's certain things that are very seductive about certain players. The fancy bag. A lot of people really rate Jordan Poole. A lot of people really used to rate guys like that. Jerry Stackhouse. But in the end, I'm not trying to be too mathematical about it. The team that wins is the one that has more points. And there's a lot of ways to put points on the board. There's a lot of ways to take points off the board. And if you're going to be an impactful basketball player, it means a lot to me that you generate good offense for your team, whether that means you yourself are scoring the points, or you're creating those looks for your teammates. And it matters on the other end that you're contributing to the other team not having easy scoring opportunities. And so, the numbers, the analytics don't lie. Scottie is definitely your best player, but it won't stop people, next year from saying, no, it's Brandon Ingram. No, it's RJ Barrett. And, who knows if Emmanuel quickly puts up a few games like he did the last game, I would not be surprised if there's some contingent of fans that think Emmanuel Quickly is a better player. But can't we just be RJ, IQ, and Scottie fans? Sure. I don't think this is a problem with most fan bases. I think this is a almost exclusively Raptor problem, right? I don't see, Laker fans trying to tear themselves apart between LeBron and AD and now LeBron and Luka. I don't necessarily see Warriors fans, trying to pit Jimmy Butler against Steph Curry. Like, whose team is it? Who's the real best player? I don't see Cavs fans doing this between Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I certainly don't. Although there is a case to be made that Darius Garland has had a better season than Donovan Mitchell this year. I don't see Cavs fans doing this between Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. No, this is a specifically Raptor issue. Right here. Right here. You. Look in the fucking mirror. You. Every single time there is a good player on this team, it always comes down to, well, what about the other player? And they're better than this player. But what about this player versus this player? The Scotty doesn't feel that way at all. Like, he is like, oh, God. Blaming RJ, he still had 29, 9, and 3 while playing with trash lineups that had 2 non-shooting bigs, Broden and Shed. Oh my God. Okay, bro. Your turnovers are on you. Okay? You don't get to blame other people for your fucking turnovers. Your wild heaves at the rim are on you. And your stupid ass defense is on you. Okay? Now, I can be very, very complimentary of RJ Barrett when he plays well, but can we be honest when he doesn't play well? Or are you always going to use the box the box score shit? If you take enough shots, you're going to have 23 points. Okay? That's just how it goes. If you want to view basketball that way, that's cool. But the negative 15 ain't lying to you. The Raptors were consistently worse in this game with RJ Barrett, defensively and offensively. The ball stuck in his hands way too often, did not move. Offense got really stagnant. I do not like the shot selection. I do not like those mid-range fadeaways that he took. And I don't like the consistent rim attacks when there's nothing happening and there's not enough movement happening before it. You need to trust your teammates, even when those teammates are AJ Lawson and Jared Roden. Okay? That's just it. Right. Now, in fairness to RJ, he didn't play the last game. Maybe he's a little bit rusty. Okay? He certainly did not have an egregious game. I just don't think that he helped tonight. Okay? And if you're someone who's going to look at the box score and be like, well, he was your best player tonight, well, then shit. I really don't know what to tell you. Okay? That's just it. I don't know what to say to you anymore. Okay? Scottie is not all NBA. I agree. He's not all NBA. All NBA means he played like a top 15 player in the league. He has not played like a top 15 player this year. I agree with that. Hockey mentality. Oof. I don't get it. I'm extremely high on Battle. I like players who play their role really well. He reminds me a little bit of CJ Miles, a little bit. Not quite the same player, but reminds me a little bit of that. He doesn't get too outside of himself, and yet I do think that there is like some room for expansion with him. I mean, he's the rookie on your team with the least upside in theory because he's a little bit older and not as athletic as a Jonathan Mobo, but he's also like probably got the highest floor, if that makes sense. Like, there's just no way that he's not going to carve out like an 8, 9, 10 year, role for himself in the NBA as an end of bench guy. Something, in the vein of Max Strus, George Niang, like those guys. Like, every team needs a guy like Jameson Battle. So, I'm not projecting starter, star, key rotation player, or anything like that. I mean, he certainly can get there. But again, as I say, like I've been watching a lot of his work with his trainer, and he's a guy that's really chasing it hard. And I don't think he's satisfied or complacent, but he's come out looked very, very impressive. I think in terms of just upside, I'm obviously extremely high on Jacobe and Ulrich, going forward. And I look forward to seeing both those guys really ball out in the summer. Not really sure Jacoby's going to play Summer League. I know Gradey's not going to play Summer League, but Battle is deceivingly large. He is. He's like a legit 6'7" and a half. And ironically, so the filmmaker, who attended Pendance, shout outs to Gabe. He was actually chatting with Jameson Battle, and had the Raptors not been Orlando, Jameson Battle would have been able to come out to the screenings. So that would have been really cool to see Jameson Battle at Pendance. But unfortunately, the Raptors were on the road against Orlando. It's kind of like a reminder to myself not to book Pendance during Raptor road trips. But unfortunately, we pick our dates before the season schedule comes out. So I'll just pray for better luck next year. Gabe looks 6'4". Gabe is legit 6'4" and a half, 6'5". Like he's huge. Yeah. I love Jacobe so much. The defense looks like it can get scary good. Yeah, Jacobe is like he's very twitchy and he's got like very, very good anticipation. Like there's certain people where I'm sure you would understand this very well, Thierry, is there's certain people whose bodies and there's certain people whose head, hands, and feet are very connected. And there's certain people whose heads, hand, and feet are not very connected. Jacoby is very connected as an athlete. Like his entire body is in flow. And that sounds really weird to say, but it's just true. Like everything is in sync with him. When he wants to move, his whole body moves in the right way. And there's certain players where it's just it always feels like their feet are kind of leading their hands and their hands are kind of leading their feet. And it just feels like, yeah, yeah, exactly. It is coordination, but it's also the timeliness of the coordination. Like it's not just the smoothness of how he moves, it's how quickly his brain is sending the signal to his hands. And it's really like in small observations when you notice like how he dives for a loose ball, like even like the fingers are so activated on tipping that loose ball away. When you think about like how he navigates around a screen, like his feet are just always on balance. You know what I mean? So it's a very he's a very ideal plug and play shooting guard in the NBA. I find him to be extremely portable. I think he can fit in with a bunch of lineups. I see him fitting in next to Brandon Ingram, next to Scotty Barnes, next to Jakob Pertl, next to Emmanuel Quickly, in place of Emmanuel Quickly, in place of Scotty Barnes, in place of he plays with everybody. He doesn't get on anyone's way. He's extremely underrated. I feel very, very underrated player. And I know that he's going to get stronger this offseason. So, just look out. Like I have a feeling he's going to come into summer league and just kill dudes. No, he can't. Gradey might be weak for a shooting guard right now. You want to put him at power forward, you might just get him killed. I don't think that's going to happen, man. Don't let them hear don't let them hear you saying that. Anyway, look, man, this is frustrating. Some of you might not be frustrated. Some of you would have been more frustrated with the win. But me personally, I'm a little bit frustrated because, to pull this shit at home with your home crowd in a close game against the Wizards, there's so many elements of this that add context to make this worse, right? And I'm just having a hard time understanding, like, what is the point of all this, right? The gap between 7th and 9th in terms of, your draft seating, like how big is that gap? Like it's really sort of tipping my hand to a few things, or tipping my or sort of it's tipping the Raptors' hand to a few things. Number one, they clearly like the top of this draft. They must value it enough to go out and try to sabotage games back to back to back. Like they've gone out and tried to sabotage all four of the last 4 games, and they've won 3 of those games regardless. So expect to see more of these shenanigans down the stretch, I guess. The second thing that it sort of tips your hat to is that they're not going to be shameful about this. Like they're totally shameless. They'll do this at home. They'll do this on the road. Like short of putting the basketball in your own basket, what did the Raptors not do to try and lose this game tonight? Seriously, unbelievable. It's hard, man. It's hard. Like I don't think I've ever seen this blatant a tank. Like I remember Tampa tank, but that was just you're playing with these really scrubby lineups, and I don't distinctly remember like down the stretch just Kyle Lowry just playing the entire game and then just being sat for the fourth quarter. I feel like the Raptors really need to rethink this strategy from a public optics perspective. Like if you're gonna sit RJ and Scotty, like I feel like that's one thing. Make up an injury, say they have a headache, say they have a personal issue, and then just set them out. But if you're going to throw the game at the end, you need to find a more creative and less obvious way to do it. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a better way to do it. Like just get Scotty to launch threes, man. Well, no, maybe you don't want to get Scotty to launch threes because then this fan base will crucify him and say that he's a scrub. Maybe you can get RJ Barrett to launch half court shots. No, then you'll have people saying he's selfish. I guess there really is no way around it, is there? Not with this fan base. No, not with this fan base. Complaint, 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 complaint. You know, you win, they complain. You lose, they complain. No, me personally, I'm not complaining about wins and losses. I don't care that they won this game or lost this game. I'm always just completely rooted into the process of how things are going and how things are being done. And you know, if everyone's on the same page, then I don't even see why you need to hold these guys out. You know, if if Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett are kind of like, okay, we get it, that's what we're doing, then just design plays that you know don't work. And then have them take crazy shots that you know have a low percentage shot going in. Like, to me, it will be less obvious that you're trying to throw games if RJ Barrett just smoked a couple layups than it is to see Scotty and RJ being pulled from the game at the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter as you run your offense through Orlando Robinson. Like, I don't even know what I would feel like if I was a fan in attendance watching this game. But I got to tell you, I don't think I'd be pleased. I don't think I would be pleased. Sure. Rob, do you think Scotty still playing is him wanting to be at the 65 game threshold, like people are saying? How many games has he played so far? I think it'll be really telling if once he gets to that 65 game threshold. Like, I don't know who told him that he's an eligibility for All NBA. He is not even close. Now, he's played 49 games so far. So he's played 50 after tonight. 50. So 15 more games. Now, how many games do the Raptors have remaining on their schedule? That is, you know, something to ask here. He doesn't have that many games he can miss, actually, now that I think about it. So we've got one more game against Washington coming up on Monday. The ultimate revenge, I'm sure. Then, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So in order for him to make the 65 game mark, he has to play 15 of the next 18 games. So this is not true. He can miss up to 2. Wait, he can miss up to 3. Because you have to be at the 65 game mark. You don't have to be above the 65 game mark. You just have to play 65 games in order to make All NBA. But again, you're not making All NBA. You're not making All NBA. Even if the Raptors are 10th, you're not making All NBA. There are players who have a far greater case than Scotty. Franz probably has a better case than Scotty. Cade has a better case than Scotty. Evan Mobley has a better case than Scotty. I think, you know, Jared Allen has a better case than Scotty. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell. You want me to name them down the line? There's 3 Boston Celtics that have a better case than Scotty. So you're not making All NBA. Like, I just want to be clear about that. Like, to anyone out there who's still kind of like, oh, well, maybe Scotty can make All NBA. Yeah, if he averages 30 points per game for the rest of the year, maybe. Because there's a lot of positives that he's done this year. And I feel like people do not appreciate those things. Like, he was an overwhelming positive tonight, cold shooting aside. He was a positive for your team. He's been a positive for your team 90% of the minutes he's played this year. He makes other people better. Like, they're, generally speaking, people are more efficient when he plays. So yeah, that cannot be denied. However, the kind of incredible individual performance you have to put on to make All NBA as a team, on a team that is like in the 30s in terms of win total, like, you have to be so much better than what Scotty is right now. You would have to be like a 25, 10, and 7 guy on a 10th seed team to make All NBA. And then you would need like 7 other players to not qualify because of injuries. Honestly, this is also a team thing. You know, generally speaking, players get buzzed for All NBA when they're on good teams and when those teams are considered good defensive teams, because people try to reverse engineer this. I firmly think Scotty has been a top 10 to top 12 defender in the NBA totally throughout the year. All the things that he does defensively that I really value, when you add in his contributions on the glass, when you add in his contributions as a playmaker, and you add in, granted, his inefficient outside shooting, but his ability to get to the line more recently, make his free throws, get to the mid-range, score around the basket, I think there's a really, really good case to be made that Scotty's been a top 20 player, top 25 player this year. But again, All NBA is about more than being a top 25 player in the NBA. I think it has a lot to do with narratives, a lot to do with team success, and a lot to do with just what can you sell and how can you sell it. Yeah, I do. And honestly, it's not that I think we'll pick there. It's just that's where I think our odds will end up. Now, if you move up from 7 to 4, well, that's exactly what you did when you had Scotty, right? When we drafted Scotty Barnes, we had the 7th pick and then we moved up to 4th, right? Last year we moved from 6th to 8th. So, kind of makes you think. One year you had the 7th, moved up 3 spots. 2-3 years later, you had the 6th. You lost your pick because you moved down 2 spots. So, yeah. Denel saying, Rob, what do you think is more unethical, what we are doing or when teams sit their entire starting lineup? I know what is more ethical or more unethical, which is obviously sitting your entire starting lineup is probably more unethical. However, I also know what feels and looks more unethical. And since a lot of fans are driven by emotions and feelings, I'm only trying to think about the 20,000, 19,000, 18,000 people who are there tonight, thinking to themselves, like it's the unfortunate thing about the Raptors broadcast is sometimes they don't really know what they're doing. And they showed a whole bunch of kids who were so upset at the end of this game. They were just like, no, like these kids are 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old. They have no context of a tank or what Cooper Flag would mean to this team or Kaman Malawach or VJ Edgecombe. All they know is that they're wearing a Raptors jersey, they're rooting for the Raptors, and the refs just took this win away. And that sucks for that kid. Try to explain to a kid, that, hey, these losses are good for us in the future, et cetera, et cetera. The kid's not wanting to hear that. The kid just wants to win, and there's a whole bunch of fans out there. Maybe, you call them puckheads or, the hockey fans or whatever, and they don't want to hear any of this tanking noise either. I got news for you. Most of the people who go into these games are not going to see this team lose. I don't think. Based on what I've seen, I don't think most of the people going to these games are trying to watch this team lose. I think they're going to watch this team be competitive, put on an entertaining product. And I mean, you got a great experience. You did get to see a game winner, and then you got to see the game winner get taken away. I'm sure you'll never forget it. But, I think he's a great fit. I think I could say that about 7 or 8 players in the draft, which is why I'm not sweating the small stuff too much. But yeah. Anyways, I apologize for crashing out a little bit earlier on Resident One. Resident One was very generous early on in the season. If you all remember, Resident One was the person who sent an e-transfer for the special video on the Raptors defense and Ochai Baji. So, you know, I don't think sending an e-transfer gives you the right to derail every single chat with your bullshit, but I do want to say, that you have contributed significantly to this channel. So thank you for that. I will also say, however, that the incessant Scotty nitpicking in the context of this season is really starting to drive me nuts. Like, really. Like, we can be real about it. We can say he hasn't had a great season, but to try and wash everything away and act like Brandon Ingram is a better player than Scotty right now is really, really dumb. And I'll say this very clearly. If right now you were to dangle Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram to every team in the league, the offer you would get back for Scotty is about 2 times to 2.5 times greater than the offer you get back for Brandon Ingram. And oh, by the way, Scotty makes more money. So the rest of the league does not feel the way that some Raptor fans feel about bucket getters and their value overall. Now, I'm rooting for Brandon Ingram. Y'all know that how I covered the trade. I love Brandon Ingram. I just hope that this fan base is not going to fucking piss me off for the next 3 years by constantly stacking Brandon and Scotty against each other. These are guys who are going to vibe. They fit very well. I think Scotty is perfectly cool with Brandon being the leading scorer. I think Brandon is perfectly capable of dealing with the fact that Scotty is the franchise player. I don't think there needs to be any controversy here at all. The only controversy is going to be created by small-minded, feeble-minded, and idiotic fans who feel this need to consistently be negative and put players against each other that do not need to be put against each other. They are on the same timeline. They're on the same team. They have the same goal. And frankly, they have very, very different strengths that are very complementary to each other. You need you need multiple good players to win games in the NBA. You need 3-4 good players to actually go up. Like, actually need much more than 3-4 good players. You need like 10 good players to go and beat a team like Cleveland or beat a team like the Boston Celtics. Unfortunately for this fan base, and I'm sorry that I keep harping on this fan base because it's really getting annoying. Because every single time something good, something good happens, it's just like it's the Jacobe Gradey thing, right? Jacobe starts to play well, start putting down Gradey. Why? Where the fuck were you where Gradey was, dropping 30 points against the Lakers? You know what I mean? Like, you can support both players. Like, we don't always have to tear someone down to pull someone up. Like, that's just, it doesn't have to be that way. And to anyone saying that I'm ripping on Scott, RJ, or I'm ripping on Scotty or whatever, look, I've been fair as hell, I think, throughout most of this year. I think I've been fair as hell. And just because we disagree does not make me a hater. It might make you stupid. It doesn't always have to be one way or the other. It's not a fucking controversy every single time someone doesn't agree and echo your exact sentiments about basketball. Okay. I'm looking at the totality of everything Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett contribute on a basketball court. I'm not just looking at their points, 3-pointers, makes, attempts. I'm not looking at just that. The same thing with Emmanuel Quickley. I have never turned on Emmanuel Quickley throughout this entire season, throughout all of his struggles, throughout all of the slanders, like, I can't believe we paid this guy $32.5 million. I have never turned on Emmanuel Quickley because I value his player type. I value his skill set as it combines next to other players because that's how I see the game of basketball. I'm not sitting there stressing his 4 for 16 performances because I know he's a better shooter than this. But it's like, when I look at that, it's just frustrating, man. It's frustrating. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it, man. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And you know what? Scotty has a lot in common with Tracy McGrady, and like a ton, like really, like the long wing. Maybe T Mac was a little bit more fluid as an athlete, but yeah, there's like a ton in common there. Big playmakers like this don't grow on trees. The ones who play hurt play hard. Scotty pushed through so much pain to play in today's game. He has been, I don't know if you see that tape on his knee. He's played hurt for the last 12 games. And you may not value that because you're a fucking loser. But trust me when I say this, that's not for everyone. When you make guaranteed money in the NBA, he's getting paid one way or the other. And you don't just get to minimize his contributions because you think that he's chasing all NBA and then some sort of selfish Fred VanVleet type of thing. No, this is a dude who's legitimately going out there and trying to help his team win any way he can, even when he can barely walk. You see him limping back to the tunnel. It's frustrating as fuck to watch a player go out and try to do consistently the right thing for his team. And he's going through a bit of a shooting streak or a shooting struggle or a shooting slump. And you can tell he's frustrated. And it's not because he's not working at it. He is definitely working at it, but he's like a legit franchise player. And he is everything that you've always wanted in a franchise player. He celebrates his teammates. He supports his teammates. He elevates his teammates. He's absolutely selfless. He's not sitting there bitching and complaining because his organization is trying to tear this shit down around him and benching him for fourth quarters. How many star players, man, can you go up to and say, we're sitting you in the fourth quarter? Do you remember when Dwayne Casey tried to sit DeMar DeRozan in the fourth quarter? No, that shit did not go over, right? The reason everything is happening in Raptorland right now, the reason you are able to go up to RJ Barrett and say, we're sitting you, the reason you're able to go up to Emmanuel Quickley and say, we're sitting you, is because you are able to go up to Scotty Barnes and say, we are sitting you. Your top dog, your franchise player, your highest paid player sets the marching orders for team chemistry and team morale and team ethos. It sets the marching order for who you are as a basketball team, how you approach practices, how you approach this stuff. The fact that Scotty is not complaining about being sat in the fourth quarter as his team loses games or tries to lose games. The fact that instead of being salty, he is sitting there celebrating Jacoby Walter and picking up Jacoby Walter and so happy for him. That is what sets the tone for the type of team you're trying to build. And that is why this organization believes so much in him. Okay? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is another great example of a franchise cornerstone and the type of person you would want to build a franchise around. Nikola Jokic is another guy. The Raptors believe they have something like this in Scotty Barnes. And I, for one, am really sick and tired of trying to convince people who don't see that vision of the vision. Frankly, at this point, I'm just going to focus on me. You focus on you. If you think RJ Barrett is the right player to build a franchise around, then I'm sorry to say you're not going to see that in the NBA, but I hope, you fire up your NBA 2K and you trade away Scotty Barnes for a whole bunch of first round picks and maybe some defensive help. and then you try to run my GM mode for the next 10 years with RJ Barrett as your franchise player and your leading scorer. The cool thing about Scotty Barnes is he doesn't mind being the third leading scorer on a team. He doesn't mind being the second leading scorer on a team. He's not a selfish player. I really value selfless players. I've always valued selfless players, and that's why I liked Rasheed Wallace as much as I do. It's why I like Kevin Durant as much as I do. I just like players who put the team first, and that's what you have. You have a franchise player who puts team first, puts his teammates first, and if you can't value that, I don't think that's an indictment on him. I think that's an indictment on you. I'm done. Peace. I agree.